Welcome to Femme and Furious, a podcast where pop culture meets a feminine framing. I am your host, Julia Rose Portela, and today I have a special guest with me. Her name is Imani. Imani is a dear friend of mine, and she is a retired fangirl who braved the trenches of Tumblr during Super Hulock, Wattpad during the My Mom Sold Me to One Direction era, and the dark ages of fanfiction.net. She now works for corporate America, sadly, but she still enjoys all things fandom from the moment that she clocks out. I am ecstatic to be welcoming her to the podcast today, where we will be discussing fanfiction and how fanfics have shaped the literary world, how it's currently shaping pop culture, the book talk space, and how it has impacted women directly. Welcome, Imani. This is my real mic. Okay, great. Okay. Yay! So studious. I sent you all the questions that I wanted to talk about, and you responded to all of them. And I'm excited to dive into all of your answers because you brought up more questions for me as I was going through it, and I feel that fan fiction is definitively the number one thing that comes up like every single time that we're on our book club.
Yes. Yes.
So
it does.
For everyone listening, Imani and I are in a book club together, and it's a very small, very intimate book club, and it focuses on books that have been adapted either into TV or movies. And so we usually like read the book and then we watch the movie or the TV show, and we sort of do like a one-to-one comp, and we always hate the movie or TV show. We always like the book much more, but
yeah,
very few occasions where that has not happened. But
yes.
We almost always end up talking about fanfiction as like the conversation sort of derails and goes off the tracks. And this is where I knew right away that you and I were kindred spirits. Mm-hmm. This is where I knew that we were raised on the same shit.
Yes.
Because I was like, me and Imani are on the same bullshit, and we have been since day one.
Yeah.
And fanfiction has been a part of my life, and I think a part of yours too,
yeah,
since like probably before it was appropriate for me to be reading fanfiction.
Yeah.
Though I've said this before in this podcast, I was reading like Judy Blume books. Not fanfiction, but I was reading Judy Blume books before it was age appropriate for me to be reading Judy Blume books.
Okay.
I would also argue, before we go into this conversation about fanfiction, I would like to argue that the American Girl books, not age appropriate for the age I was when I was reading them.
Honestly, they do deal with some pretty heavy topics. I've not read them myself, but I think it was because my mom, who was a librarian, knew that they weren't age appropriate. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love, this is fitting to me that your mom was a librarian.
Yes. No,
that
it's
is
truly
so fitting.
It's truly because of her that I feel like, and that's the thing, like my mom never censored anything that I read. I just feel like she would put certain things in front of me, and those weren't books that she did. But it's so funny, I remember like when I was in middle school, my mom was a high school librarian. And so I would go to her job and like look at the books that high schoolers were reading. And very similar to you, I was in 6th grade reading like romance novels. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be, but here we are.
So a while ago in our book group, in our book chat, whatever we're going to call it, someone had sent, and I forget who it was because we send stuff back and forth all the time, but somebody had sent this video of this guy basically saying, like, fanfic is porn and, like, smut is porn. And anyway, I have a huge problem with this across mediums because I find that things that women like are so degraded in this way. Like, women can't like it because it's sexual, as if we are not sexual beings, and then we're like shamed for not being sexual beings and slut shamed when we are. It's like the double standard of it. But I certainly found fan fiction for two very specific reasons. Well, I would say sexuality was not one of them until I was in like the world of fan fiction.
Right.
And much like you, because one of the things that I put down is like, do you think that it's because people want to spend time in a world? Do you think that people enjoy fan fiction because they just want to continue these stories? And for me, that was a huge part of it. I am a
Yeah.
chronic rewatcher and like
Same.
rereader.
Yes.
I absolutely will go back to the same materials over and over again and just keep going. Like sometimes I will end a movie or a book and I will be like, I'm not done with this yet. I'm
Yeah.
not haven't processed this yet, or I'm
Yeah.
not done to be with these characters yet. And like growing up, I had very specific properties of things that because I watched a lot of TV and I watched a lot of movies. I was like a Blockbuster like card holder. I mean, I think we all had to have the
Please.
Blockbuster card, but like I
We're
had like a
dating
premium
ourselves.
member. Yeah, like back in the day. Hollywood Video, right?
Hollywood Video.
And like in 2008, there was still Hollywood Video. Isn't that weird to think about?
Yeah, I know.
find pictures every once in a while, and I'm like, it's a weird place that I was in high school. Like it existed in high school.
I know. It's not real.
It's not. It feels like a different period of time altogether.
Yeah.
But my introduction to fan fiction, I'm going to embarrass myself by saying this, and you might know this. I might have told you this before, but I'll say it here for the public. I absolutely got into fan fiction because I was very dissatisfied that Helga and Hey Arnold.
Oh my god. Tears.
I was so bothered by it.
Yeah.
I was bothered by the fact that they were not an item.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this spun out for me because then shortly after I started reading that, to which I would say I read a lot of like they were aged up and they were
Yes.
I also then was very dissatisfied with the romance that was unfolding in Sailor Moon.
You know what? That's a more common one, I will say. I feel like a lot of people, their gateway into fan fiction was definitely something influenced by like anime
Yeah.
or like all of the animated series that like came on that block on Cartoon Network. So
Yes.
Sailor Moon, I've heard really common. Naruto, I've heard really common. Like definitely, yeah. But Hey Arnold, that's a first. I've not I've not encountered that.
I would read these fanfics like on the deep web and then they came out with the movie probably like 2 or 3 years into me reading the fan fiction. They came out with the Hey Arnold movie. I don't know if you remember this. And finally in the Hey Arnold movie they kissed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then I spiraled into an even deeper fanfic
Oh my God.
obsession with Hey Arnold. So Hey Arnold and like Sailor Moon were sort of like my introduction. And then shortly after that, School of Rock came out. And this is where I started to get into like darker fan fiction. Again,
From School
not
of Rock?
inappropriate. Like I read a ton of fanfics where they were on drugs, they were older, they were still in a band, they were having sex, they were on the road, and I couldn't get enough of it. Like I just
Love
was so, and I would watch the movie and then I would read all of the weekly fanfics that would come out. And then next week I would do the same thing. I would watch the movie. I loved the characters. I loved that movie. Other ones, and I'm saying these because I feel like I had an unconventional fan fiction journey.
Yeah, with the exception of Sailor Moon, these are like very unpopular fan fiction fandoms, I'll say.
I should have known I was queer. This is my I should have known I was queer fanfic. When I started reading Chicago.
Oh my God.
Lot of lesbian, girl on girl in jail. 20s.
But you know what? This is the beauty of fan fiction because truly something for everyone. Fan fiction, if anything it's taught me, it's that I have never had an original thought or an original experience. Because I guarantee you, something that I imagined would happen with some characters, someone on the internet has written about it.
Yep. And I mean, it's great. It's one of the best parts of what I think fan fiction provides, because for me it was just like so enamored with, not just because, like School of Rock is in a world, right? Like Chicago is in a world, but they were stories, especially for like the musical theater nerd in me
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
Chicago, but they were stories that were so prominent and so influential to me
Yeah.
that I couldn't get enough of the movies. Like I would watch the DVDs, I would watch, and back then, when we were watching DVDs, the DVDs had the special bonus,
Yeah,
deleted
yeah.
scenes, or it would have like the director commentary, and I would watch all of that and then sit down and read fan fiction.
Same. Same, actually. Yeah, I would. I still do sometimes.
Yeah. And because to me, it was like, just like you said, like these extensions of thought about things that I would think about, or pieces of it that didn't feel full, or things that were, in there that were minuscule in the movies or the stories, but that were major plot points in
Right.
fanfic.
Right.
And I really loved that. Another really obscure one, and then I'll, let you give your introduction to fanfiction.
Yes.
Maybe it's not obscure because I feel like a lot of people do like this, but I also read a lot, an obscene amount of Pirates of the Caribbean
You know what?
fanfic.
Someone in my actual fan fiction Discord, that was also their intro. So it's not obscure. You'd be
I'm good.
surprised.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm good. It's on the totem pole of like from Hey Arnold.
But before we like normalize it, what pairing were you reading?
Oh, Jack and Kira. Jack and
Okay.
Elizabeth.
Okay. I think that's what my friend was reading too. Yeah. I think I'm the only person that wanted her to be with Orlando Bloom.
Yeah, Will.
Will, yes.
I liked them, but you know what? If I knew then what I know now about myself, I
Hmm.
would have been searching for thruples.
It was on the tip of my tongue. I was like, but you know what was too far ahead of our time? Thruple.
I would have been reading. If I would have known
Yeah,
then what I knew about myself now, that
yeah,
I would be feral for a
yeah,
story about thruples,
yeah,
I would have been seeking that out. But
yeah.
thruples weren't a thing, so obviously it
No.
was just a pairing. And I think Jack Sparrow, I would also say, like, if I'm going with School of Rock, like Freddie, which was the
Hmm.
drummer, which was the person I was consistently reading fanfics about because I thought he was hot in the
Okay.
movie and I just wanted more about his story.
Okay.
I would say that those were like my gateway bad boy, like, liked Johnny Depp's character as
Right.
Jack Sparrow definitively more than I liked any other character. Like, didn't care
Right.
about anybody. I was like, who cares
Right.
about this stupid romance going on? No one cares about this.
I mean, you're alone in that thought because
I, I know.
I wanted all the romance. Maybe I've just always known who I was from a very young age.
I think it's great. So, what was your introduction to fanfics?
Mine is a little more conventional, and I like had to double check what was the answer I gave you, because I wanted to know, like, was I honest or did I lie? But I was honest. It was Twilight. It was Twilight, and I feel there's no reason for me to be embarrassed by it because Twilight has since inspired so many other fan fictions that have
TV
become like
shows?
real media. Exactly. But I found a Twilight fan fiction on Twitter or something, like a random day after school. Someone I followed on Twitter was talking about this thing that they were reading, and I was a very voracious reader. And I like tweeted them back, and I was like, "What are you reading? What is this?" And they were like, "Oh, it's fan fiction." And I was like, "What's that?" And she sent me the link. And for me, like, even more exciting than realizing that there was this entire community online of people who were writing things that I always imagined as a what if, or expanding the universes of my favorite things. What was the most exciting thing was that it was free. It was
Yeah.
free. It's literally people investing so much of their life and their time and their energy, and they are doing it for free. And I feel like I just got so deeply obsessed with Twilight fan fiction. And the irony of it, Jules, I'll tell you, is that I was Team Jacob, loud and proud
Me
in the
too.
streets, but I was only reading Bella Edward fan fiction. Can't explain it. I can't explain it. And
You needed to understand it from a different perspective.
I did. And you know what? It helped me because seeing the way other people wrote about and portrayed Edward made me realize, oh, okay, he's not a total stick in the mud. It's just the way Stephanie Meyer wrote him, which is crazy because she made him, right? Like the fact that I don't like the canon portrayal of him, but I love the fan fiction portrayals of him. There's so many levels to that. But I think Twilight was my intro, but I will say the two fandoms or fan universes that like kept me on this ship until my ripe age of 31 would be Star Wars and Harry Potter. And I'm not proud. I'm not proud of either of those because reading Harry Potter fan fiction at my old age is just, it's sad. I need to let that go. But the stuff, no, I, but the Star Wars pairing, which you know very well, Raylo, very controversial online. And I feel like I gravitated towards the fan fiction because it was my safe space from like Reddit, where people were destroying those two characters and hated everything about them, or even Twitter, or at the time Tumblr. Like everywhere else in the internet, I felt had such a like averse reaction to those two
Yes.
as a pairing that when I went on AO3, Archive of Our Own, the best place to read fan fiction, and I saw that there were thousands, if not now hundreds of thousands of stories about these two characters. I was like, yeah, I am normal. Everyone else is weird.
No, I mean, I think both are pretty normal. I mean, especially right now, you could say that being 31 is too old to be doing Harry Potter fan fiction, but it's all of these Dramini, which for people that are listening that have no idea what that means, that's Draco and Hermione.
Here we
All of
go.
these Dramini fanfics are getting published, like conventionally
Yeah.
published, and
Yeah.
and so a bunch of Raylo stuff. I mean, some of my favorite books, especially stuff by Casey McQuiston, are fanfic based. And Red, White, and
Yeah.
Royal Blue, which was, fanfic of the movie Facebook. What is the name of
The
the
social network.
social network?
Yeah.
Which had Jesse Eisenberg and Andrew Garfield.
Yes.
It was fanfic. She wrote that book of fanfic of that specific pairing in that specific movie. And that's one of my favorite books of all times. And then she has another one that is I'm sorry, I just misgendered them. But
They them. Yeah.
Casey
No.
has another book that is Raylo coded.
Wait, I didn't know they had a Raylo book. I actually did not know that.
I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. I'm wondering if it is the pairing.
But you know what? It doesn't surprise me because I have a friend who's like very online, even more online than the both of us, and their biggest thing with like Red, White, and Royal Blue, and they will like they will be screaming this from their grave, is that it technically wasn't like a true fan fiction adaptation from like this is the fanfic, this is the book. Apparently, Casey McQuiston had been like a very big shipper of those characters and had written many things. And I feel like about those two characters rather. And Red, White, and Royal Blue was like the culmination of all of those things,
Yeah.
plus their original work. Whereas there are actual authors these days who are just ripping their fanfics, doing a control F with the names and descriptions, and publishing the exact thing, which, I feel like I worry sometimes about that because it can be controversial because technically it wasn't an original idea. All you did was really change a few elements, but like I'm not entirely mad about it because the weird thing about fan fiction is it's gotten a lot of people to read traditional publishing again because of these authors.
I think there's so many benefits to it. I mean, genuinely so many. And
Yeah.
one of those being that people are coming back to it, but also just that, like, people who really have some lovely writing. Some is not.
Yeah.
Some is just, hey, I'm
Some's
online, I
bad.
have an idea. But there are some really good, and I'll tag this in the show notes when I edit this, but I had read, like, when Fourth Wing came out, I couldn't get enough of the story. I read it, I reread it, I read it again.
Yes.
I read it for the third time. And after the third time, I was like, it was like on the precipice of Iron Flame coming out. So I was like, I need to put this down for like a few weeks, just until the second book comes out. I can reread it before that. But in the interim, what I found was a fan fiction of the whole book based off of Xaden's POV. So
what? Send this to me.
And it was, I will. And it was so great because I was like, I wasn't done. I was theorizing. I was so in my like Easter eggs and like dissecting all of the language and so hyped for the second book to come out. And that like set me off, like to give me like a little buffer between one and the other. And I think fanfics, again, like give you this opportunity to be in a world or to be with a character, to be with something that you love in a way that is non-threatening. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if non-threatening is the right language, but like, for example, with so much happening with J.K. Rowling right now.
Yeah.
This is like what made me question, you know, and I posed this question to you and to our friend Kara, like, do you think Hermione is having a moment because of everything that's going on with J.K. Rowling and people love these stories and love Harry Potter, but like can't let it go and don't want to engage with the conventional stuff because they don't want to give her any money?
Yeah.
And you were like, I don't know. And, you know, we could talk about that a little bit more, but I just think that, like, for example, for people like me where, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's Silver Elite. Have you seen all of like the stuff
I'm
around
seeing
Silver
everything around Silver Elite. I haven't read it though, but I guess I must.
I'm nervous because one of the things people keep saying Sarah J. Maas, and I'm like, well, she already writes this type of stuff. So why would she need to do a pseudonym or a pen name in order to get this out? In fact, it would probably sell more if she had her name attached to it. So that begs the question when they say it's a #1 best-selling author. Okay, fine. It could be somebody that's, you know, written YA and wants to write adult and, you know, doesn't want to be tagged and associated. But I just kept thinking, like, what if this is somebody like J.K. Rowling who just has an awful, you know, belief system that I don't believe in, and now we're just like giving them money in this different format. Yeah. Because sales are going down and people are not engaging with the stuff. And I think fan fiction is a really lovely way, especially for people who love Harry Potter at this particular moment in time, more than other, I would say, sectors of fandom or fanfic, is a really nice way for people to be able to continue on with these stories without knowing that they are causing harm to a community, the trans community, the LGBTQ community, by continuing to read the books or buy the books or download the books or whatever. Or even the movies. I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't know if that's exactly why, but it just feels like a year ago, maybe not even a year ago, but maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago, there was not as much Hermione as there is now. I feel like now it is like, this is the thing to read. This is the book, the fandom, the pairing to read. And I really like this aspect of it, of being able to, at least for me, be able to engage with characters in a different way, because they're not a conventional pairing in the story, for them to get that moment, because people really wanted it. And people wanted it because of Emma and Tom's connection. And when you see that, and then you're reading these, it's not really about the characters. It's actually about the people and our like desire for the real life thing to happen. To which I will say, if anybody has Harry style Taylor Swift fanfics, I will take it. Give me your
It exists. It exists.
I'm sure it does.
I personally could never read that pairing, but it does exist. And like,
why?
No, because it was rare. I was there and I remember it all too well. It was a horrible time to be on Tumblr when Harry Styles and Taylor Swift were together. And for me, it was bad. For me personally, I've always had this thing where I draw the line at what they call RPF, which is like fan fiction about real
Real
people.
people.
And I feel like, especially when it comes to like boy bands, the amount of RPF that comes out of it is just crazy because it feels wild to me because they're real people. And I say that with you knowing that I loved the idea of you, which was
Me
essentially
too.
Harry Styles fan fiction. Like, but like it felt different because it was a published book. Meanwhile, when I was reading after on Wattpad, I was like, this feels weird. These are real people. Why are we doing this? Like, but as soon as it becomes a published novel and you change the name Harry to Harden, yeah, what the hell, you know? So it's weird to have that like firm line for me, or a
Yeah.
fine line, as Harry would say, where I just refuse to read RPF. But the minute you change the names, I'm like, yeah, I'll absolutely take this. And for a lot of people, that's how fan fiction is versus traditional publishing. Like I had so many friends who loved the Love Hypothesis, but they made fun of me for watching Star Wars. And I had to be like, you do know that this is Star Wars fan fiction, right? And they were like, no, it's not. His name's Adam and her name is Olive. And I was like, yeah, Adam Driver. Like, hello, hello.
Hottest man on earth.
Truly, truly, he does not get his roses anymore now that he's not in Star Wars movies anymore. But no, it's so crazy to me how there is a stigma around what people will and will not read, and how just changing the medium of it can just
Yeah.
make a fan out of anyone. But when it comes to like the Harry Potter stuff, I totally get it. Like I can see that point where it's like maybe fan fiction within that fandom is having a moment right now because it's people like taking control of that narrative, where it's like you still want to be immersed in that world, but you don't want to give the author money because you don't agree with their politics. Like giving the money actively does harm to all these communities. But a big part of me, especially having been in the Hermione fandom for the last 15 years, I just know that like it's always been there. Like there have always been so many like low key undercover people, because who doesn't love a bad boy redemption arc? And the thing is, in the original Harry Potter books, he never gets one. And so like the first couple of Hermione fan fictions I read were all about giving this character an actual redemption arc. And then
Yeah.
from there, it turned into turning him into an entirely different person. I mean, I've read Hermione fan fictions. The most recent one I read, he's a zombie. Like it makes like, how did we get there? You know what I mean? Like, and I just feel like it's people taking ownership of the characters for the sake of doing so. Like these are people that they really love. They weren't satisfied with the story. They're putting their own spin on it. But I mean, it would be very nice to think that people are doing this in protest, right? It's like, I hate the author. I can write their story better than them, which when we get into that territory, that's when things can get a little dicey. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with Anne Rice and her POV on fan fiction. Right. Like there was a time where people were legitimately afraid to publish their fan fiction because the original authors would sue. And it's like we went from this time where fan fiction was something you consumed in the dark, where you wrote in the dark, like you didn't want
Mm-hmm.
anyone to know you were reading it, anyone to know you were writing it, to now people making TikToks to promote their fan fictions.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's I actually think it's I don't know. I really love it. I do think that there is a side of it that gets um dicey when, like, for example, people were printing manacles and then binding it
Oh
and then
my
selling it.
God.
So, okay, here we go. That's where it gets a little bit dicey as far as like publishing and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Although obviously now getting turned into a traditionally published book.
Yeah.
But what I love about fan fiction, or what I love about people promoting it at this point, is my general take on art in general. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter what the medium is that once it has left the artist's mind, once it has been created
Hmm.
and put out in the world, it no
Hmm.
longer belongs to the artist.
Yeah.
It belongs to the people that are consuming the art. And that doesn't mean that it's only ours and not theirs anymore. But especially for something like TV, let's just say, or books that are going to be series, it then becomes a collaboration. It becomes a collaboration of response
Right.
and how I am digesting it and processing the story, and the general consensus of how people are digesting and processing the story,
Right.
and what is originating in the author's mind, or a director's mind, or a screenwriter's mind, as the story that they want to tell. And both of those things have to sort of coexist once it's out in the world. And so I think fan fiction is a really nice medium of those two things, where some fan fictions, I'm sure, some fanfics, I'm sure, are written better or have maybe like a different POV. But I think that is something that already originates in them, and just having a medium or a piece of IP that they care about enough to take that thought and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do with this and how I'm going to put my spin on this, I think is really fascinating. Elizabeth Gilbert, who has written a million one things, but most people will know her from Eat, Pray, Love. But she has this book, and I don't know why I can't think of the title of it, but it's more of a memoir-ish. And one of the things that she talks about, it's all about creativity. And one of the things that she talks about in that book is, well, ideas exist out in the ether. Ideas do not belong to us. Ideas are sort of born in the collective consciousness. And what happens is they will knock on your brain door and say, isn't this a good idea? Don't you want to do this? And what happens is sometimes we'll go, well, I'm too busy, or I don't have enough time, or I can't write that right now, or whatever. And it gets pushed off, and it goes and it knocks on someone else's door, and then they release the thing. They have the idea that we have, and we'll go, that was my idea. And it's not. It doesn't belong to any of us. It belongs to the collective consciousness. Now, me, a metaphysician, I love this take on it. And I'm paraphrasing what she says, but I think fan fiction is this nice web of collective consciousness where we can take something that has been born through one person and expand it to the potential of what it could have been in any myriad realm. And if we're talking about like multi-dimensions and stuff like that, I know we're not, but you know, what Manacled is in this lifetime could have been what Harry Potter is in another lifetime for another group of us that are just reading this content in a different format, that was the first brainchild, and maybe Harry Potter is like a lighter, more jovial, which is like weird to think about, but Manacled's quite dark, right?
Yes.
So, you know, like a lighter, more jovial, maybe just different experience of that story. And I think that they are all, sure, there's an OG or like an original piece of content, but I think they're all, they all belong to us, and they all belong to the fandom in a way, and you have to take sort of like the good and the bad pieces of it.
No, I definitely agree. And it is interesting to me because it really is all about perspective. Like, I think there are so many pieces of art that I've consumed that I'm like, I know this is fan fiction, but the author maybe never came forward and said that, or it's been alleged that it's fan fiction, like in the case of like Casey McQuiston, because like Red, White, and Royal Blue, like you read it, you're like, this is social network fan fiction, like it just fits that way, but it's like allegedly, like they've never come forward and said that. Whereas you have some authors, again, the Ali Hazelwoods of the world, who are like, I started a Star Wars fan fiction. I'm just going to tell the same story with these two people. Like, I think how you perceive these stories, like the origin of these stories, definitely impacts your opinion on whether they should be allowed or not. Because for the authors who just don't want to come forward and say that what they've written was loosely based or inspired by something else, they don't want to believe in like a collective consciousness. Like, they want to believe that this was their original piece of work. They put this out and that's the end of it. Whereas other people who like believe in art responding to art, or like you said, like this collective consciousness, like they're fine with it. And I think I fall in like the latter half, where it's like, yeah, I want to believe that like we all share ideas, and like from one thing comes another thing, or vice versa. And like there's multiple timelines, like you said, where Harry Potter is the light version of medical somehow. Um, but yeah, again, it's all about perception and like how you ingest the stories that you're reading.
So I want to come back to something that you said a little bit earlier, like we sort of brushed over it, but I'm backtracking here
Hmm.
about rewriting the bad boy, because this was another thing that we talked
Hmm.
about in depth in our group chat, that Draco and like Hermione fan fiction right now, and I would also say like Raylo at this point,
Yes, yes.
and I would also say for many people, I know you put Super Hulak,
Oh my
but I would
God.
specifically say for people who like Sherlock, to which I will say for everyone
Hmm.
listening, I have a cat named Sherlock. I have a cat named Watson. The
Yes.
the story is important to me. Sherlock's not a bad boy. Like objectively, like he is a
Yeah.
hero, if not an awkward or like somewhat. I
Hmm.
don't know. He
Hmm.
calls himself sociopathic, but
Hmm.
a high functioning sociopath according to Benedict Cumberbatch version of Sherlock.
Hmm.
But I would say like these are like fanfic mediums that, or like IPs that are like rewriting the bad boy
Hmm.
to be more of the romantic hero. And I would like to hear your takes on this because I have many.
I do too, and I want to say like, so I remember when I was in high school, I was obsessed with this series that I've since like learned. I don't think I really liked the books as much as the fact that I liked that they were set in New York. But there was this book series called Immortal Instruments, written by Cassandra Clare, which everyone, and I mean everyone, has alleged is Harry Potter fan fiction. And I will not confirm or deny because I don't want Cassie Clare to come to my home and hurt me. But I remember reading the character of Jay Swayland and thinking, this is Draco Malfoy. Like this is Draco Malfoy if he was a bad boy that just wanted to protect people. And it was like that awakening for me that kind of made me go looking for Harry Potter fan fiction. Like I was like, what if like you had a character like you don't want to change their personality. Maybe they're really a dick. Like maybe they really are just like up themselves and they're just not a nice person, but they have good intentions. And I think that argument can be made for every bad boy in every fandom. But like when it comes to the Draco Malfoys or the Kylo Rens or I don't know. I'm sure there's someone out there writing Lex Luthor fan fiction. Like when it comes to like the really, really bad people who you don't think have redeemable qualities, writing stories where you find those redeemable qualities are just so rewarding because it's like you've taken someone that you know is horrible and you somehow made people love them. And I a trope that we're seeing like outside of fan fiction, outside of all this, like in romance in general, is dark romance. Like people love dark
Mm-hmm.
romance because the mafia man or the serial killer or the what like the really really bad person, you love the idea that you're the woman that makes them do something good. I don't know why I'm wired that way, why I'm attracted to that sort of character, but it's who I am. I'm not going to apologize for it. And I think that's why I think I'm not alone in that. Like, I think there are a lot of people who like that same sense of danger. And that's why they're gravitating towards rewriting these bad boys and giving them the one exception. And that would be the other person in the pairing.
Okay, let me ask you a question now that you brought up dark romance.
Okay.
Do you think I'm like a I like a Butcher and Blackbird. Do you read that?
Okay.
Okay.
You
Like
told me to, and I can't, but I know what it's about.
okay. Did you read Lights Out?
Again, you told me, and I couldn't get through it. I was like, wait, I don't like when the woman's crazy.
They're all crazy. They're all objectively all crazy in all scenarios. You don't like when she's crazy. You want him to be a psycho. You want her to be completely normal. She is
Yeah,
mindful and demure. He is off the head. Okay, I got it.
exactly.
Okay, now that I know that that's your preference, I will keep that in mind.
Yes.
I like a we can do this in a funny way. I don't like a Haunting Adeline or like a,
No,
I don't know.
no.
I can't get there. That doesn't,
Yeah,
it's not for me. Okay.
no. Yeah.
I like real romance. Give me a love story that has, you know, a subplot with other stuff going on. Give me like a nice
Yes.
Emily Henry book or whatever. I don't really love dark romance, but I dabble. I dabble every once in a while. And I would say like
Yeah.
fanfics are definitely the place where I dabble, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I
Yeah.
have to ask you a question. Do you think men are infiltrating the book talk slash bookstagram spaces with their masked man content
Yeah. Yeah.
in a way that is actually really annoying?
Yeah. No, I definitely think so. And it annoys me because, like, not even just like the masked men, it's also the guys who are like reading like the most highlighted lines on like
Yes.
Kindle Unlimited books where it's like, you're
Yes.
mine or crawl to me. Like, they're like portraying these characters, and it's like, no, you're only doing like, you don't care about the story. You're only doing this because you know that there are so many women who will eat this up, and
Yes.
it's I feel like you're in my space. Like, men are absolutely welcome to
Yes.
read these books. They're fine to read fan fiction. They're fine. But like, don't commodify it, I would say. Like, don't like use it to your own advantage.
There is one exception, and I will talk about that, but yes, I actually get the heebie-jeebies, the cringies, like the deepest of cringies when I am scrolling and then all of a sudden, now listen, it's different when somebody copies the audiobook narration and puts it out over the quotes or whatever like that. It's another thing when there's a man on the internet who's like, "Hey guys, crawl to me."
Oh,
Like,
no,
you're such a
no,
dirty girl. You
no,
would look so good with my
no,
hands around your neck. And I'm like, shut up. Just go away.
no.
It's like,
You're
I just want to read
disgusting.
it with my eyeballs. I don't want to hear
Right.
you say it.
Right.
Which is
That's the
funny
other thing.
because if
This
a
is
real man that I was dating said it, I would be 12 out of 10, 10 toes down. I'd be so into it.
okay. I think that, so that's what's so interesting to me. I love reading a toxic man. I love reading an alpha male. Like, I love all that nonsense. If I'm ever dating a man and he says something to me like, good girl, I'm just going to be like, are you for real? Who do you think you are? Don't say that to me. I'm a woman. Like,
Me,
I feel like I don't know.
I get that.
Maybe if it's done right, it's different. But like, in my experience, I'm associating that in real life behavior with the men on TikTok who are doing it just to prove something or just to like make themselves look good for
Yeah.
women, you know? Until I
Yes.
experience it from a real man, it's just gonna make me cringe.
I really have a lot of thoughts about men in the book talk space, and I have a lot of thoughts about men in the space in general, especially men who, like you're saying, use it as a form of commodification. And also, like you said, like to appeal to women, there is something about the good guy, and I don't
Hmm.
know if I sent it to you or if I just sent it to Kara, but I just sent something about like all of these guys, like Ross from Friends was one of them, where they were like he's
Yeah,
manipulating her not to get on the plane, and he's like gaslighting her not to get on the plane. And
yeah.
same thing with like Corey Matthews was on there, and I was like, yeah, like
Ugh,
these. And I've
yeah.
listened to a lot of podcasts. It's really, really interesting. I listened to this podcast that dissects the psychology of the good guy behavior, and it's actually what they've come to find through like a ton of studies talking to like a ton of different psychologists is that men who are trying to portray the good guy are actually doing this in relationship to their masculinity and a reference point to understanding that the alpha male or like this toxic, you know, get on your knees and suck my
Yeah,
dick kind of
yeah.
behavior um, is not well, but it actually has nothing to do with women. It's like, well, I don't want to be that kind of man, so I'm going to be the
Right.
good guy, but it's actually not to be safe for women. That's what they've found. It's in relation to their masculinity and other men versus like I am deciding to
Wow.
be a feminist or a, somebody who supports women because I
Yeah.
enjoy women. It's like, well, I just don't enjoy that type of man, so I'm going to be a different type of man's relationship to my masculinity. Very fascinating. I say this because men are taking over, not taking over, but certainly infiltrating the space, and it really frustrates me because it's so, the way that it is described, like there is this one person, I'm not going to say his name, but he's pretty big on like Bookstagram, who will like
Mm-hmm.
call Fourth Wing like dragon smut. He's like, just call it for what it is. It's not good literature. It's just like dragon smut. And I'm like, then what's House of the Dragon?
Hello.
What's
Yeah.
what is House of the Dragon? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Why why do we do this? Anyway, that's my tangent on men in the space.
Yes.
A tangent that I could go on for forever. But I will say
I
the
could too.
exception to masked men is, to bring it back to Harry Potter, is the Dementors.
Oh
I'm sorry.
God.
The Dark Eaters, Death
The
Eaters.
Death Eaters.
It took me a minute together. The Death Eaters
No. No.
on. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen
I
that?
do. I do. I want to go to
This is the
Universal
only.
Studios.
This is the only exception where I'm like, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. This is
Yeah.
allowed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it drives me insane because I'm like, I'm too old for this, but I really want to go to Universal Studios now.
You're not too old.
No,
What's too old?
please, please, you're right. I probably will go. No, I will say, like, I have like a quick tangent about men in the space too. I want to blame, do you know the app Quinn?
Yes.
Quinn. Okay, so like Quinn started out as this like erotic audiobook app and it was fine, but then like all of these men on TikTok started reading book talk lines and then
Mm-hmm.
actually getting jobs on Quinn. And it's like they like make fun of this stuff. Like they don't think it's serious, like they think it's a joke. And like
Yes.
maybe to them it is, but for some people they legitimately really enjoy this content. And so that bothers me because I know they're actually only getting into this to get jobs on Quinn or whatever other platform and make money off of it. And they don't enjoy it. Like they're truly just in it for themselves. And I'm like, for some people, like this is their thing. Like let people have their thing, without
Yes.
infiltrating their space for your own benefit or making fun of people for enjoying it. Just let people have their things.
I will say an alternate to Quinn for those who are looking for an erotic app. It is called Dipsy and it's by women. It's made by women
Oh,
and it's for women. And they just started to do like more of an audiobook where like there's different, like there's more of a storyline through
cool.
each chapter and stuff like that. But it's really great. Anyway, it's for women by women. So I know of Quinn because I know that these are where these guys are going to, and I'm like, no, I hear your voice on TikTok for free. I don't need to go
Yeah.
over and pay Quinn for this. And I agree. Just think that there's something in this that is to say women like this, and to
Yeah.
quote Harry Styles, just because girls like it, I'm paraphrasing, but Harry Styles,
Hmm.
who in his Rolling Stone interview after he came out with his solo album, was like, just because it's not 30-year-old hipsters who are liking the music doesn't mean that it's not serious. Like, why shouldn't we take it serious? Like, the Beatles were serious, are we going to say that they weren't serious? And it's true. Like, who went to go see the Beatles?
Yeah.
Women. Women fainted.
Exactly.
Women had, and same thing. Like, obviously, women made One Direction, and I don't think that there's anything, by the way, I love One Direction. I know you do too.
Me
So
too.
I
Yes.
don't think there's
Big fan.
anything embarrassing about that. But I think, books have become the space for women, or the book talk space has become the space for women. And fan fictions, I think, have fan fictions, multiple, like internets, like I'm a grandma.
Internet.
Fanfics, I think, have been a space for women for a while.
Yeah.
At least to my knowledge, I have never seen anything. I'm sure this is maybe not 100% true. I'm sure that this is not a true statistic. But I have never seen anything that I've heard about be conventionally published that was a fanfic that was written by a man. Do you know of any?
You know what? Now that you say that, I'm like trying to think. But that's the thing. I'm sure it's happened, but I can't think of any. Or maybe I can't think of any that we know of because like I said, some people just will never come forward and be like, I was
Yeah,
inspired by this thing, you know?
yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of these stories are women exploring different parts of these narratives in a way that is, whether it's imaginative or I don't know, I don't know if again safe is the right word, but
Yeah.
at least for me, I was an avid reader growing up.
Yeah.
I and I had a weird relationship to my sexuality for like a long, long time.
Hmm.
I would say fan fiction was sort of my introduction to my own understanding of being like a sexual being, that I had like thoughts, desires, feelings. And it was a Meg Cabot book that taught me how to masturbate. So,
Wait, now you have to say which book.
can I do a little Google search? Because I'm
Was it The
not sure.
Mediator? Because if it was, I'll scream.
No. Let me look up Meg Cabot books.
I
Maybe I'll
also
revisit
like
this.
used to work. I used to work for Meg Cabot, so I'm going to send her an email.
And tell her that your friend learned how to masturbate from her books. It
She
wasn't the
would
Princess
love that.
Diaries.
She
It
would
was
love
not the
that.
Princess Diaries. What was it? This is 2023.
Was it? It had
I
to
mean,
be The Mediator because the
I read
Mediator
a
was
lot of her
very
books.
horny. The Mediator was very
Was
horny because he was a ghost.
No, it definitely wasn't that. She was, I can tell you that the girl was lived
Wait,
in
was
the
it the
White
one with the
House.
president? Yes.
Yes. What book is that?
Wait, I can't remember, but I literally know what you're talking about. I'm screaming.
She
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
she masturbates in the
yeah,
bathtub.
yeah.
She she never uses her hands. At least that I can remember. This is my core memory of this book that I don't even
Yeah,
remember the name of. She turns the faucet on in the bath
yeah,
and
yeah.
she scoots underneath it and the pressure of the
Scoots.
water coming down. And this was how I learned how to masturbate. For everyone
Yeah.
listening, welcome to my sex life.
Thank you, Meg
And
Cabot, for your contributions to society.
thank you for that. And thank you to, I don't want to say thank you to Akon because I don't like him. But I will say the song that was playing in my waterproof, I had a waterproof speaker
Yes.
where you would stick your iPod in and you would close it. It was like two hunks of plastic and you would like
Oh, that's
lock your
so
iPod
cool.
in there. Do you know what I'm talking about? You would like
I think
lock
I
your
will.
iPod in this like big plastic case and it was waterproof so you could bring your iPod into the shower. And I would listen to Smack That
Wow.
by Akon. And then I
Wow.
would get out and read
Yeah.
fan fiction. Or I'd be reading fan fiction and I would be like, this was my, and for so long I was like, I don't masturbate. And I remember like having a conversation with my girlfriends and they were like, you don't masturbate? And I was like, I don't touch myself. Like, that's so weird. But meanwhile, I was doing this thing in the shower.
Yep.
And then I ended up having this conversation with my girlfriends, like as we started drinking and I really started to come into my sexuality like a little bit more. We were drinking and I was like, well, I guess like I do this thing. And like we were on the floor, but it was written in a book. Like I
Yeah.
never discovered it. And I discovered my sexuality and like things that I liked and things that I wanted to explore through
Yeah.
fanfics. And obviously like
Yeah.
Meg Cabot, it wasn't a fanfic, but it was
Yeah.
definitely never like this thing that I would see on TV or like anything. Like I would watch the stuff on TV. Like I remember watching the OC and I would be like, these sex scenes are so unrealistic. Me, a virgin,
Yeah.
telling,
Yes.
these.
Yeah.
I'd be
Yeah.
like, I don't understand. Marissa's not, this doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
And then I would go and read fan fiction about the OC.
Yeah. No, honestly, I mean, you talk about like fan fiction helping you discover like parts of your sexuality. For me, I feel like, and this is so crazy to think, but like fan fiction made me more tolerant of other people's sexualities because like
Interesting.
it's so like growing up, like I definitely knew queer people. They may or may not have been out, but like I definitely knew queer
Sure.
people and I like just knew them as my friend. Like I didn't think of them being queer as like I didn't think anything of it. Like I was just like they're just like me. Like they don't have anything different about them. Like we have crushes, we go through life, it's whatever. It wasn't until I read like Teen Wolf fan fiction. And it's like
Huh.
one where like Styles is like it's like Styles and Derek and like Styles has to come out to his dad. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is like a thing that I guess people who aren't straight have to do. Like they have to like worry about
Yeah.
how the world's going to react." And it's like I didn't really get exposed to that kind of media or that kind I didn't really get exposed to that kind of stuff until college, really. Like when I would see storylines on like Degrassi or eventually Gossip Girl, but like when I was like a teenager, like it came from reading fan fiction. Like people were
Yeah.
probably taking their real life experiences, putting it in the same space as their favorite characters, and then writing it for whoever on the internet to consume. And for me, it kind of made me take a walk in like other people's shoes. And that's the other thing. I talk about my mom like never censoring what I read, but I went to Christian and Catholic school. I don't remember ever seeing a book in our library growing up that had queer representation. My first like aside from the time I watched Brokeback Mountain with my parents because we rented it on Blockbuster, my first and only like preteen foray into queer media was Teen Wolf fan fiction.
That's amazing. I never watched Teen Wolf.
So I mean, there's one queer character on that show, and he's a total throwaway character. But the fan fiction, whew, the fan
But that's
fiction
what
made
I,
it seem like
yeah.
everyone was queer. Yeah,
Fan fiction, that's what I mean. Like these things that are throwaway to us or like things that are so minute in a conventional
yeah,
story or the way that it's put out in IP is the center
yeah,
of what it is in fan fiction. And I
yeah,
really, really have always enjoyed that about fan fiction. I think it's actually one of the things that makes it such a prominent platform on whatever
yeah.
platform one chooses to tell the story, and listen, like Anna, what's her last name? Who did After?
Anna Todd.
Anna Todd. I was like Anna Kemp, and I was like, that's not right. Um, I was like, I know that's not right. So
Yeah,
I sort of went backwards into this. This is what pulled me back into fan fiction. So I was at the time I was doing special ed. I was working with a student one to one. I was at his house. I used to sleep over his house and stuff like that. Like their parents, used to go into the city and go to concerts and go away or whatever. And I was at his house and he went to bed and I was up and I just was like, let me just find something on Netflix to watch. And I found this movie that was called After.
oh
And
God.
or maybe is it called After? The first one?
No, the first one's called After, and then they
It
all
is,
have
right?
After in
Okay.
the title. Yeah,
Yeah, they're like after you, before this, whatever.
yeah.
Anyway. And I watched the movie and I'm watching Harden in the movie and I'm like, this has to be about One Direction. So I Google afterwards
Yes.
and it's like, yeah, it's based off of fan fiction. And one of the things that I actually like really commend Anna Todd for, even though these movies have turned out to be a disaster, but I watch every single one of them because I can't help it,
Yes.
is she refused to she actually like made it in her contract that they would leave the fan fiction up for free so that people could continue to read the fan fiction, and you can see where
Oh
it changes over because I read all
wow.
of the fan fiction and she would be like,
Yeah.
hey, this is getting adapted, I can't say Harry anymore, here's everyone's new names, but like up until then it still says Harry, so and then it changes over to Harden and stuff, but
Yeah.
I read all of that and that sort of like reintroduced me after like many years of not reading. So sort of this post or like pre-COVID era and like finding after reading all of the fanfics and then sort of getting back into fanfics, to which I will say Raylo was was my go-to. I think it's weird that
Yes.
anybody would make fun of you for reading or engaging with Star Wars at all. Star Wars is like one of the biggest
Me
properties
too.
ever. Like,
Yeah,
I think you're lame if you call someone nerdy for watching Star Wars at this point because there's like Andor and
exactly.
Mandalorian and stuff like that. I'm sorry. Like, I know
People
that we're
love
not
it. People
seeing
love it.
Pedro's
Yeah.
face, but who doesn't love Grogu? Who does
Yes,
not love Andor?
exactly.
I
Exactly.
I really anyway, I loved Raylo. I loved it in the movies. I wanted more of it, just like you, and that was sort of like my introduction. And I went back and I was like, well, what else do I want? I was like sort of sifting through AO3, and I was
Yes.
like, well, what else can
I
I?
agree.
Yeah, I'm like, what else can I find? And I post this every year. I post this photo every year on May 4th on Star Wars Day. I post this photo from when I was working at Disney. In 2012, when I started working at Disney, characters in the suits could not say anything. That was it. Like
Oh,
they just walked around. I
yeah.
think it was in 2014 or 2015 that they introduced certain characters to have like the vocal box.
Yes. Yeah, I've
The
seen that.
technology advanced. Star Wars was one of those first places where they were testing this out because they had stormtroopers where they could put in like the stormtrooper voices and
Hmm.
Kylo Ren. And I post this picture every year because we went into this little tiny chamber where Kylo Ren was standing here, over here, and me and my friends are all looking at him. And I was stuck in like a limbo between choke me with the force and get me the fuck out of here. I've
Yeah.
never been more scared in my entire life. Because
Yeah.
because it's one thing to look at him and be like, you're hot. I can imagine Adam Driver being underneath there. It's another thing to hear the voice.
No.
Literally, the picture is all of us like this. But there is something in my face where you're like, am I a little turned on? And and it was sort of like these two things paired together, like they happened around the same time, like within the same couple of years. Like I think it was that I found after and then posted that picture and was like, oh yeah. And went back
Yeah.
and was looking at Raylo fanfiction. And now some of like the most like I'm sorry because I should have done my homework before this, but like there's a book series that's out right now which is
Yeah.
the
Oh, I know
romantasy, which
this.
is
My friend is literally the
Monsoon.
editor of this. Yeah, yeah.
Is
It's
she?
like Monsoon Kingdom, and yeah, the first one is the Hurricane War. So my friend is
Yes,
the
Hurricane
editor on
War.
this, and I'll
Oh, I
never
love that.
forget. I will also, oh my God. Yeah, I will never forget when that book, because I used to work in the book publishing industry, and I remember when Raylo fan fictions were starting to become adapted into like traditionally published books. And I was like, okay, we're kind of going for like the small timers. No, we're not. They were going for like the very popular ones, but like this one fan fiction, which used to be called, I think it was called Landscape, the Blur of Consequences or something. That's what the Hurricane War was based on, this very popular fan fiction. I remember thinking, this is gonna change the game. And like, as far as romantasy goes, I don't think that book is like in the same vein. Like, sorry to my friend who's the editor on this book, but I don't think it's in the same vein as like the Fourth Wings and like Sarah J.
Mhm.
Maas books. Like, not that level of popularity, but like it did make people look at Star Wars fan fiction differently because up
Yes.
until a certain point, it was just rom coms that were being published, like very easily adaptable, where you could look at this and not know that it was based on Star Wars fan fiction. Whereas this person who wrote a Star Wars fan fiction it was very well researched in terms of like the lore of the Star Wars universe,
Yes.
then had to reinvent all of that stuff to create their own world. And I think it got like a lot of street cred about that because someone was like, not only did this person write this
Yeah.
very intense, complicated, intricate piece of work, but they wrote it twice because it's one of the rare instances where the published work is really different from the fanfic. And it's like the
Mhm.
fact that someone did all of that work twice, the first time for free, it's crazy. It's crazy to me.
Did you read it?
I read the Hurricane War. I haven't read the second one, but I did read the fic. Like I read it when it was a fic, and I
Okay.
remember thinking, well, I read it as a fic. I don't need to read the book. But then I started the book, and I was like, oh, this is quite different. It's very different. You can see elements of the original story for sure, but because they had to create their own lore, their own history, like their own
Hmm.
all of these things, it's different.
I picked it up. Sorry to your friend who edited this. I picked it up and I forget what book series I was coming off of, but I was coming off of something and then tried to get into this and I was like, I feel like I had read Boys of Tommen beforehand, which I don't know if you've ever read Boys of
Mm-hmm.
Tommen, but
You love it.
really heavy stuff. You like Boys of Tommen?
No, I said you love it, and I
Oh, I
think you've
love
tried
Boys
to
of
get me to
Tommen.
read it.
Boys, it's one of the best written books I've ever read because it's got so much. Anyway, this is like a plug for Boys of Tommen. Everyone should read it. I wish it wasn't gay kept as much as it is. But Boys of Tommen does this thing as she's writing because the stories are sort of overlapped in certain places. So they're not standalones, even though there's usually like two books for each pairing, but
Yeah.
they're overlapped in stories. So you're still getting other people's stories because they're all connected. They're all related and friends and whatever.
Okay.
And you'll see, like, in someone's POV, like, you'll be reading and you'll be like, oh, and then these two characters shared a glance. And you're like, oh, what was that glance about? And you won't know until you get their book. And you'll be like, oh, going back to sort of that thing or like how they're all interconnected. Anyway, it's so real life because isn't that what happens in real life? Like you'll be saying something to your friend and your friend will look at somebody else or look at their partner and be like, give them a face or something that you don't understand, but you
Yeah.
clock it in the moment where you're like,
Yeah.
huh. So I like that about her writing. I think it's really sharp and I think it's really human. But I think I was coming off of that series, which is very heavy because I would say it is very rooted in trauma. It's like a lot
Okay.
of addiction, a lot of like real life stuff that people deal with,
Yeah.
teen
Yeah.
pregnancy, like stuff like that. Anyway, I think I was coming off of that and I tried to pick up Hurricane Wars and I think I made it like a few chapters in and I was like I knew exactly what it was, which is why I was
Yeah.
excited to read it and I was like I can't do this right now. Like my brain can't process this. Like I just needed
Yeah.
something easy and light and digestible, but then I never went back
And
to
it's
it, so
not.
I have to.
It's not easy. It's not even the fanfic. Like to this day, I'm still amazed that it was maybe the most kudoed Raylo fan. Like kudos is it's like a badge of honor on our part
Yeah.
of our own, which is the fan fiction website. And the more kudos something has, it means the more people liked it. And I do think at the time it was the most kudoed Raylo fan fiction. And I remember reading it and I was like, this shit is dense. Like I can't believe it reminded me, and sorry to like George R. R. Martin, but it reminded me of when I tried to pick up a Game of Thrones book, and I was like,
Very
I
heavy.
can't believe so many people in the world have read this because this is dense. Like I need to sit down and really think, and that's how I felt reading the fan fiction. So of course, and that was a universe I already knew, and I was like, wow, I have to think really hard. And so when I read the Hurricane War, I was like, this is really well written. I can tell it's really thought out. It's so intricate. Like there's so many threads. Like it's so interesting. But it's definitely a book you have to like sit and think about. And no tea, no shade, because I loved Fourth Wing, even though I haven't read the other two. I think that's the difference between books like the Sarah J. Maas series and like Fourth Wing and like the true deep fantasy novels is that one is like popcorn. I may not know what's going on, but because the dialogue's great and it's very fast paced, I don't really need to know everything. And I can read through it and be happy. That's Fourth Wing for me. Versus the Hurricane
Yeah.
War, where it's a beautiful story, it's just a lot. And I really need to sit and think and digest it. And in a world where we're all so busy, and there's also so many other things that we can read, including fan fiction, which is free and just there at my phone whenever I want it, it kind of made it hard. That's why I haven't picked up the second one. It was like, am I ready to commit the time and energy to return to this world when I could read these 10 other books where It starts in media res, and then we kick off full speed ahead, and I don't have to go through 100 pages of world building.
Yeah.
You know.
I just read off of a recommendation. I want to come back to George R. R. Martin in a second, but I just read off of recommendation of another bookstagrammer that I follow who is going to be on the pod later this month. And
Yay!
the interview already happened, but the episode is not releasing until later. And
Okay.
she had read this book called Blood Over Brighthaven, and I remember that it was like a slow start, and then she was like, I'm hooked, I can't stop. And when somebody says that and I like trust their recommendations, I'm like, okay, I want to read it. So I went into the book blind. I didn't know what it was about, and I won't spoil it for people who want to read it, but not a light book. Like somewhere between sci-fi and fantasy. It's not really like it's like somewhere between both of those worlds. And I say that because it's a book that touches on gender, on race, on class, on like the shades of discrimination that like you could be discriminated against by a group that is larger than you, and also discriminate against or have biases against other groups that are more minority than you, and the influence of society in this way. So picked up this book, not knowing this, put it down, and I was like, oh, I'm so happy that I'm doing an Emily Henry series for my podcast, because I put that book down and I was like, I'm still thinking about it. Like, I'm still digesting and processing everything that book dissected, and the way that it did it, and the nuance that it does it in. And then I was like, great, I get to read these Emily Henry books, which are not, by the way, I would say they're popcorn in like, sure, you can just keep going like this, but her books tend to touch
very
on
well written.
other stuff. Yeah. They tend to, they probably fall somewhere between like women's literature, like women's fiction, and like romance.
Yeah, I think, listen,
some of them.
they're women's. I feel I used to work for her book publisher as well, and like my first Emily Henry foray, I was like, this is romance. I don't know what we're doing here. But there did come a transition where I think her work got a little bit more upmarket, or maybe it's the way it's marketed to me that I think it's a little more upmarket. And now it's in hardcover, and it's feeling like you're reading, I don't know, Debbie Maycomb or like Ellen Hildebrand. Like it does feel a little, it does feel a little more women's fiction and a little less rom-com. So I agree.
As certainly as she's progressed, and definitely with this last one. And now that I'm reading them like back to back, I was like, oh, I just read 3 back to back, and I have to record the podcast on them. But I want to come back to George R. R. Martin, because actually, as a history buff, as you were saying this, as you were talking about Game of Thrones, heavy book, heavy book,
so heavy,
right? And unfinished, right? So, like, deeply disturbs me that it's unfinished.
I mean, he'll get back to it one day.
No, he will not. Who are we kidding? When you have made all of the money that you're making, and they're making all of these spin-offs that they're making, why would you write the book?
I mean, he's under contract. He's set for the rest of his life.
Since 1992, when the first book came out. I'm sure he's going to do it before he gets there at some point. He's probably been able to buy himself out of the contract with how much money he's made from
I know.
So, when we talk about fan fiction, this is not fan fiction per se, but for those of us who like history, to which I do, if you have ever done any sort of research or have done any sort of, I love British history.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones is the War of Roses.
It is.
And you can't tell me otherwise. So it's fan fiction of history.
It's War of Roses fan fiction, and there's your answer to your question. Has a man ever gotten fan fiction published? Yeah, George R. R. Martin fucking did. Because it is the War of the Roses. It is. It's Tudor propaganda. That's what it is.
It's 100% Tudor propaganda. It's. I just did a New York thing where I turned the A into an ER and the ER into an A. That was the most New York thing I've ever done in my entire life.
I love it.
A Long Island thing, perhaps. I love the books, right? But then
Yeah.
traditionally published, but heavy. And that's why I was surprised when, for example, like Manacled was,
Mm-hmm.
when people were like Manacled, I have not dabbled. I know you have not either. I have skimmed the surface. I have dipped a toe.
Mm-mm.
I have not dove in because again, like you need to be
Mm-mm.
in the mindset of it. It's not a popcorn book. It's
No, it's
not.
very heavy.
And I would like to do, as they come out, I would like to do one-to-one comps. So I know that there's one coming out shortly in
There's
July.
three. There's two coming out in July, and I'm excited about both of them. One of which I love. I think it's called Rose and Chains. That's the one I told you to read the fan fiction of. Oh my
Okay, I
God,
started it.
I'm showing my whole ass right now, but I
No, no, no.
love that series so much.
Okay, so I started it. I had just put in a hold in my library for the irresistible urge to fall for your enemy, which I think the comp for that is Draco Malfoy
Draco
and the
Malfoy and the
horrible ordeal
mortifying
of falling in love.
ideal of
Yeah,
falling
yes,
in
yes, yes.
love. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and I know you sent me that one too. So, like, I would love to do like one-to-one comps. I'd love to have you on if you want to do them. But,
I do too. I'll do it for Rose and Chains because
okay,
as much as I want to support the other one, Draco Malfoy and the mortifying ideal of whatever, also being published by Berkeley. We should have someone from Berkeley to come on here because they're the ones who did all the Raylos and now they're getting into Hermione.
if you have a
But
contact, please send them my way. I'd love to
I will
have
I
them
will
on.
text my former assistant because she loves books. No, but I would do it for Rose and Chains because I read
Okay,
the original. I was going to say the original text. My God, I read the
it
fan
is though.
fiction.
It's the original text. That's the original text.
I've read it. I've read the auction many times. I loved it so much. And I know I'm gonna love Rose and Chains. It's like the one book that I can't get an advanced copy of because I do have an advanced copy of Manacled, which is now being called Alchemized. Yuck. Not gonna
Yes,
read
that one
either.
too.
Sorry. No offense. Sorry. I just can't. It's too dark. And I have the advanced copy of Draco Mouth. Sorry. The Irresistible Urge to Not Fall for Your Enemy or whatever it is. So I've got those, but I haven't gotten one for Rose and Shane. So I'm going to be like a normie for once and read it on the day it comes out with everyone else. So I would love to be back for that.
Yeah, I started the I started the auction. I downloaded it onto my Kindle. I'm in like
Yeah.
Emily Henry universe right now. I was like, I have to take a pause from this. I had put in for Passion Project, which is another one that's like a romance book that's sort of big on TikTok. And then I was kind of had thought about it because originally I was like, I'm gonna read all of these. I had you send me all of these fan fictions. I was like, I'm gonna read all of them before today. But I really wanted to start this conversation because I know I'll have you on. I definitively know that you're coming back on, but I'll have you on as many times
Yes.
as you would like to come.
Yes.
I wanted to give each one its due because they're all being published. So I would love to like do the fanfic and then do this and do sort of like how we do for our book club. You know, whether you want to come
Yeah.
on for them or not, that's sort of how I was like looking at the content where I was like, these books are coming out and people are going to be reading them and they're going to get pushed in publishing
Yeah.
in like a major
Yeah.
way because they already have a fan base. So,
Yeah.
you know, and for the people that are not part of that fan base, there's still books that are going to blow up on the book in the book community because of the way that they're going to get pushed in publishing. At least I think so. So I
I
feel like
think
the
so
marketing behind a
too.
lot of them is going to be really heavy, I think
Wait.
especially for Alchemized.
So, okay, two things. One, I've already made a prediction as to which book is going to blow it out of the water, and I'm so sorry to my former Berkeley colleagues, but I sadly believe it's going to be Alchemized because for
Me too.
some reason, and I'm not a hater, but for some reason, everyone loves Manacled, and it is the one that I can't even bring myself to, like, it nothing about it appeals to me. Why would I
I
want
know,
to
I get it.
read an alternate universe about the Handmaid's Tale in a
I
Harry
know.
Potter world? Like whatever. I think that one is sadly going to be the one that blows it out the water. But number two, you talked about the marketing for these books. There has been some controversy about this because a lot of people are saying it is I don't know if it's a mistake or maybe they're saying it's immoral to market them as Harry Potter fan fictions because for one, and I'm not there's this platform called Edelweiss, which is used for advanced copies of books for people in the book publishing industry. And they usually come out with like these like they call them sell sheets. And it's basically like a one sheeter with like highlights about why people will buy this book because it's this whole platform is used to get bookstores and libraries to carry these books. And so on the one sheet for the irresistible urge to not fall for your enemy, they're positioning it as fan fiction. And they're like, so what is Hermione? Because obviously the people who are buying these books for Barnes and Noble and library, like these are people who are 55 years old and have never read Harry Potter or fan fiction. They're like explaining it as like this new hot new thing. It's like, so what is Hermione? It's the romantic pairing of Draco and Hermione as popularized by fans of Harry Potter. And people are like, I don't know if we should be using what was essentially a free product as a selling point. And like I get it because like the thing with the Raylo books that happened years ago was it was like a cool secret you weren't in on. Like you would see a tweet being like, "Did you know this book was fan fiction?" That was it. It's not like people were running ads with copies saying based off the
Yeah.
popular Star Wars. Like, but now it kind of feels like publishers are leaning into this for why they're doing it for Hermione, I'll never know. And it's becoming controversial. And so I do wonder if we're going to start seeing a trend in this. Like, who I've been like, for my friends who still work in book publishing and who are editors and are looking for the next best thing, when Raylo was happening, I told all my editor friends, you have to read Hermione. They did, and now there's a bunch of Hermione books coming out in the world. I've had some friends text and ask me, like, what do you think is going to be the next fandom?
I
And
think
part of
that's
me
great
like
too.
wants to gatekeep it because I don't want to see the fandom community get destroyed because of capitalism, you know? Like I'm worried that someone's gonna sue, and it's probably gonna be J.K. Rowling if I'm being honest. But I'm worried. But if I had, since you did ask, if I had to take a guess as to like what would be the next big fandom to like be made into something, this feels weird to say because it's truly not there
Same.
as a fandom yet. It's very if you know, you know. I don't know if I should. I think Hunger Games.
Okay.
I think Hunger Games. And the reason why I say that is because one, we notice a trend where people love a villain. I've seen a lot of people start to write fan fiction on the young President Snow and Lucy Gray, whatever the fuck her face is. And I feel like people are revisit. I didn't read that book. I'm so sorry.
I read it and
I
I was not thrilled.
I feel like people are revisiting Peeta and Katniss. People are revisiting Finnick. Like, I'm starting to
Yeah.
see an uptick
Finnick.
in. I'm for real for real for Finnick. I'm starting to see an uptick in content about this what used to be a very popular young adult series, and that's truly how it starts. It starts with whatever the teens are reading, and then they grow up and become mature writers, and then start writing it, and
Yeah.
then so it goes. I mean, if you think about the rom-com writers of the 2010s, like Christina Lauren, Sally Thorne, like I hope I'm not blowing up anyone's spot here, but they were all Twilight fan fiction writers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that happened 10 years after Twilight, where they took off. Hunger Games was 10 years ago. I think people are going to be looking for the next best thing.
I mean, listen, I just think that we were all, as a teenager who was really into Twilight when it was happening, really
Yeah,
into it. I think we were all just left unsatisfied.
we
This is
were.
Twilight is the embodiment is the book embodiment of a man who rubs your vagina for 5 seconds and goes, "Did you come?" And you're like, "Yeah, sure." Because
And
they
yeah,
and the one sex scene that they have, maybe there's two sex scenes in the book, but maybe there's like but I think there's like the one prominent one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Is so. I remember reading it and
It's
just being like, what? Like,
it's closed door.
fanfic.
It's closed door. It's
Yes.
literally closed
Very
door.
Mormon.
And like, hello. And like again, I'm like, it's because of the author, right? Whereas a lot of the people who are writing these fan fictions, they're not repressed. They're if they are religious, they're not letting it stop them at all. So
And
I
that's
don't
where you
I don't
get
know.
that to 50 Shades of Grey.
I know. And you know what's
The
crazy?
comp.
You know what's freaking crazy? I think that Manacled is the 50 Shades of Grey of the Harry Potter world because I also, even though I read 50 Shades of Grey, I didn't like it. Like I read
Me
it
neither.
because everyone else was reading it.
I
I
agree.
think that's what Manacled is going to be all the way down to the handcuffs because that's the whole thing in Manacled is she's in
Shackled.
shackles. Like
Yeah.
I can't do it.
I yeah, I've never heard anyone read Manacled and be like, you want to know what? I've read darker. Like, I've yet to hear somebody say, oh, there is a
Yeah.
book that is darker
Yeah.
or deeper than this. So, I know myself, like, we just talked about this up top where I was like, I don't really like dark romance. I
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
opposed to bondage. I'm certainly opposed to like the the captor captive.
I don't like it. But
It
wait,
gets
no, just I'm being a hypocrite. I'm being a total hypocrite because there is a Hermione fan fiction that I'm gonna say offline because I don't want anyone to know I'm reading this. I'm gonna
okay.
tell you about it. It is essentially what I thought Manacled would be. And it's better because it's not as dark. I feel like Manacled
Okay.
is purposefully dark for the sake of shock value. Whereas this
Okay.
other fic, it's a work in progress, so that's why people really aren't talking about it the way they are Manacled. It's very dark. It's also got a Handmaid's Tale-esque spin to it. If I say the other comp, everyone's gonna know what I'm talking about. But it's dark in a purposeful way. It's dark to illustrate the horrors of society and like how a just a normal world can completely get turned on itself because of the selfish actions of the people in power. Like I like this fic so much better because it feels rooted in reality, whereas Manacle just feels like something that's dark for the sake of being dark. And I'm gonna
Mm,
send you this fic because it's very good and it's very well
okay.
written. Oh my god,
Yeah.
how did I
A
forget
lot of
about
them
it?
really are. I mean, you get this is what's so great about these platforms, especially in a world where listen, I've heard a lot about there's a lot of different stuff about Kindle Unlimited, but I have Kindle Unlimited. Come at me,
Me
internet.
too.
But
Me too.
one of my favorite authors, Penn Cole, who wrote the Kindred Saga, who's writing the Kindred
Oh
Saga,
yeah,
Spark of the
yeah,
Everflame and stuff like that. She says all the time, like, it's actually hurtful to indie authors who have their books on these platforms, you know,
yeah. Oh,
to stop getting this because of whatever royalties or whatever, numbers
right.
or whatever. And she did like a whole breakdown. It was like really fascinating and she's really transparent about a lot of that stuff. But she's not the only indie author that I've heard, and I think that there's something, in fan fiction that, much like Kindle Unlimited, is a pathway to publication when you are a good writer, and born out of some of the best writing, in my opinion, is when somebody is doing something for free. When the story is moving through you because you're
Yeah,
moved by the story, it's an extension
yeah,
of you, it's an extension of your thoughts and your opinions, and it flows. And I mean,
yeah.
I don't know about you. Like, what's your relationship to writing?
I mean, I have a creative writing degree. Do I use it now?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I also
Yeah.
used to write fan fiction. I still
Okay,
low
great.
key do write fan fiction, but
I
under a
love that.
pseudonym that no one knows about.
Oh my god, send it to
But
me.
please, please. But I do it for all the reasons you said. I do it because I genuinely love telling the story. Like I'm not doing it with the if I wanted to be published, like not to be insane or crazy, but I worked in the book publishing
Yeah, you
industry.
could.
I know agents. Some of my best friends were, some of them still are editors. Like, I truly just do it for the fun of it. And also, I do it to become a better writer because no one is as harsh of a critic as the people who read fan fiction. Like, I have seen comments on fanfics that are more scathing than book reviews from New York Times. Like, I'm just saying. So I do it to make myself a better writer.
And I think it's a great way. And then it's this golden opportunity right now because clearly publishing houses and people who are looking for this stuff. I mean, listen, I've never been in publishing, but I have a ton of friends who obviously have been. How many queries do you think each agent
Oh
is
my
getting per
God.
week? And
Thousands,
yes.
thousands.
So for people to then be spending their time sifting online for these stories because they're stories that people are already invested in, that they already have a platform, that they already have fans
Yeah.
following them, and then in the off chance that you find one that's better than one of the thousands of manuscripts that are sitting in your inbox waiting to be read, it to me is such a profound thing. I mean, I think fan fiction, and especially fan fiction for women in particular, and this is like, another subset of this conversation, but women get published in very specific ways.
Yeah.
Women have very specific categories that they can get published under, being, chick lit or rom-coms or,
The fact that it's still
yeah,
called women's fiction when it's
yeah.
just fiction.
Fiction.
Like,
It's fiction. The fact that it is called women's fiction when it's just fiction, it's just stories about women who are half of the population, if not more, that they get published in this very specific way. And I think that fan fiction, whether they're writing under pseudonyms or under pen names, or, whether it's just like a place for women to exist, to share their stories and to share their writing and to share their art and their thoughts
yeah.
in a way that can be found predominantly by other women. And again, I don't know the statistics here, but I would say probably much like the book talk space, I would say fan fiction and these platforms on Wattpad and, and AO3 and stuff like that, I would say probably predominantly women or femme-leaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah. I would agree.
gives them another opportunity to get published. Like you said, there's 3 coming out and they're all written by women. And I just think that that's amazing, whether you want to read these stories or not, whether to particularly like the manacled to alchemize, whether that's something that you want to dabble in or not, it's an opportunity for women who are just out there writing their stories, who don't have to query, or who maybe finish or get pretty much all the way through a story and then decide to pitch that to somebody and have
Yeah.
some of the statistics to follow it behind them. So I
Yeah.
think it's like a really great bridge from one world into the other. And I'm actually really happy to see that a lot of these things are no longer secretly fan fictions getting published, and that it's this like underground thing that we have to be ashamed or embarrassed of. Why should we be ashamed that we want more of these stories? And especially when
Yeah.
it's coming from authors who aren't going to give you more of the stories in this context. Like, I think it's just a really great extension of what it is to be in fandom and what it is to be a girl. I think to be a girl, to be a woman, but like particularly like going back to girlhood, to be a girl is to be connected to fandom. It was
Yeah.
NSYNC or it was Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
It was Aaron Carter or it was, whatever. And
Yeah.
you were fans. You were automatically fans. I was part of a Mary Kate and Ashley fan club. Like,
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
the PR boxes, the fan boxes, all of this stuff. And I think to be a girl and to be connected to womanhood is to be connected to fandom. And I think the fact that these things are getting published traditionally, to me, is such a milestone in a perhaps peculiar way for women and for women writers.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I definitely think there is like something like very feminist about fan fiction and like how it has transformed like book publishing, but also just like how women can get published because it is predominantly women at least who are being open about having written fan fiction and turning it into original novels. But what's also interesting to me is that, especially for the fanfics that are in the genre space, like sci-fi and fantasy used to be very male dominated. And I think of people like Olivia Blake, who writes fan fiction under her pen name. Like she's a Hermione author. She wrote the Atlas Six, but writes it under like
Yes.
she's not hiding at all. She's like out in the open,
No.
like, yeah, I publish books, but I also write Hermione fan fiction. I think about how people like that have now entered these genres and are reaching the top of the New York Times bestsellers list and lists that used to be dominated by people like John Scalzi and like George R. R. Martin. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that for a long time, those specific genres were solely male. And like, don't even talk about the race aspect of it because not for nothing, though, and I could be wrong. I'm 99% sure that the woman who wrote the Hurricane Wars, which was based off of Raylo fan fiction, is a woman of Asian descent, I believe.
I will
And I
double check
do
this for
think,
you.
yeah, we can double check. Her name is Thea, but
Yep.
I've also noticed a trend where a lot of these authors aren't just white women because that's the other complaint, right? It's that first
Mm-hmm.
genre fiction was purely male. Then it was that rom-coms were purely white women. Now we're starting to see other people from like non-English speaking countries from all over the world. Like fan fiction has
Yeah.
completely gotten rid of that barrier of you needing have gone to Iowa and gotten an MFA to get a book deal. Now a 16-year-old girl in the Philippines can get
Yeah.
a book deal.
She's Filipino.
Or yeah, exactly. That's what I
Yes.
thought. So yeah, literally people from all over the world, of all races, of all educational, ethnic backgrounds, are being able to enter this space because of something that they did free online. But I did want to also make a point that like as great as fan fiction has been for women, I think the thing that ultimately commercialized fan fiction, and I only know this from my friends in fandom who are much older than I am, one of the most popular pairings in fan fiction was Star Trek, and it was Captain Kirk and Spock. And it was that pairing that even gave us Slash. Like, exactly. Like, the entire subgenre of fan fiction about gay couples. And I
Yeah.
don't know who invented it. I don't know how it got there, but it says something to me that, like, not only is fan fiction breaking down these barriers for women, but from the very beginning, it's been opening and accepting of the queer community as well. And I think, you talk about the cultural other. If there's ever a
Yes.
space where the cultural other has ever felt welcome, it's been in fandom.
A
So,
100%. I
yeah.
no, I totally agree, and I think it's one of the best things that exists in this world. I mean, I think women and queer folk sort of fall into the same category, not always, but I think they do. And then there's obviously this like multi-layer of race that then comes
Hmm.
into it,
Hmm.
but I think you're right. I'd love to like look up the statistics, and I can do this like thereafter, but I'd love to look up the statistics of like what is getting published from fan fiction and how much of that is women and
Hmm.
how much of that is women who are not white. And I think that's such a
Hmm. Hmm.
fascinating thing. I mean, same thing in the same way that we as women are going onto these platforms to rewrite the bad boy because this is the type of person that we want. I mean, this is why Morally Gray, this is my cat jumping down. This is why
Oh,
Morally Gray is having a moment. This is why we are enjoying stories like this. We want somebody who has nuance. We want somebody who is complex. And
yeah.
we want somebody who has the ability, right, to see us and respect us and also act as somebody who in reverence will also protect.
Yeah.
And if I could like Luther Corbois, which is from Spark of the Everflame, is like, I want to kneel at your feet in the blood of your enemies. I don't have any enemies, but if I did, I want to know that you would do that for me. I love that.
Right.
I think it's great. So I think there is something about these platforms giving us the opportunity to tell the stories that we want, or to hear the stories that
Yeah.
we want, or engage in the stories that we want as women. And like you're saying, you know, for me, like I know Sunrise on the Reaping is having its moment, and I'm
Mm,
sure Hunger Games as a I'm sure you are correct to say that this is the next thing that will blow up in fanfics, but like I'm I don't it's not a world that I want to go back to. It's not story.
no.
I'm like, you've seen one Hunger Games, you've seen them all. Like I don't understand.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. I'm sure I'll read it at some point, but I wasn't like rushing to get it off the shelf when it came out.
Same, same. And also, not for nothing, but there have already been a couple of popular fantasy series or like dystopian series that are, they're calling them Hunger Games meets this or whatever. And I'm like,
Yep.
was this a Hunger Games fanfic but published before it was cool to say something was a Hunger Games fanfic? I'm speaking directly about Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I'm not speaking
Uh-huh.
about The Red Queen by Victoria, what's her name, because that in itself is like its own argument that we could spend a whole nother podcast on entirely. But yeah, no,
Well,
it is
and
interesting.
it's also interesting too. This goes in sort of a different direction, but there are just certain things like trials have always been a fantasy thing. This is something that is just
Mm-hmm.
conventional in mythology to have trials since like Greek,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Roman mythology. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because the Hunger Games has sort of been coined as the modern version of this type of mythic storytelling, even though it's always been
Yeah.
there. So something like Powerless, which I would say the next book, and I haven't read the last one because I was like I just can't. But
I
it was
only read
is
the first. Yeah.
it's the first one is great. Kai is amazing. We all just we're in it for Kai, okay?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. We
then
love Kai.
you're not in it for anything other than Kai. But there is something about like, and that's where this is really interesting, and like I'd be curious to watch how this trends, because people do say like the Hunger Games meets blank, but what they're really saying is like this is a story that has trials in it, when meanwhile trials have been something that is connected to mythology since the beginning of, you know, stories like epics that
Yeah.
were written, original
Yeah.
epics that were written, like a Gilgamesh, for example, or
Yeah.
I don't know why that's the only one that's coming off the top of my head, but like that
Yeah.
it's all trials. It's all trials and
Yeah.
tribulations. Like you do this and the gods will give you this, or you Hercules, right? Like a story
Yeah.
that is about trials and finding, you know, fighting through the trials to receive your demigod status or to receive your godhood. And
Yeah.
I think that this is something that in like modern day storytelling has just been like tagged as the Hunger Games, as like we do trials in this particular context, and now every time that there's trials, even
It's the
in books
marketing.
like
Yeah.
yes. So like for there is a book that just came out last year. It was called The Games Gods Play. It's
Mm-hmm.
a Greek mythology retelling, romantasy, and there are trials in it. And the same thing, it was like Hunger Games meets like Greek mythology, and I was like, it's actually just Greek mythology. It's just a
Yeah.
Greek mythology retelling. But I
Yeah.
think that's really interesting, and I wonder now how you saying that sort of like flag something for me, because a lot of people do say that, and I wonder if it is fanfic that is getting
Yeah.
converted and that's why we're saying it that way, or if it's just a way to say that there's trials in the story.
But here's the thing, it may not have been written as fan fiction, but that's what it is. Like I love the Percy Jackson series. I truly loved it when I was a kid. But when I learned that there were entire epics about Greek gods and goddesses, because I never grew up on like Hercules, so I didn't know anything about Greek and Roman mythology until Percy Jackson. And I thought that Rick had made that world. And then I was like, oh no, it's based on something else. He didn't write that setting out to write fan
Yeah,
fiction, but that's precisely what it is. It's his interpretation of how the gods
Greek
would
mythos,
deal
yeah.
if they had kids with mortals, you know? It's like it's literally fan fiction. Like whether he was a fan of Greek mythology and he wrote some fiction based on it. And at the end of the day, that's all fan fiction is. It's just the medium in which it's released that has the stigma around it. Like if it comes out first as a book in hard print, everyone thinks it's amazing. If it's written free online, people try to belittle it and call it cheap or trashy.
Yes, as they do with all things that are typically women dominated. I think
Yeah,
we've just
that's true.
stumbled across something here as like a parting note and ending note. I think that we have just discovered that men write fan fiction off of history.
They do. They do.
Women are writing fan fiction off of characters that were not flushed out enough, who had a lot of potential and who we were romantically interested in, that we wanted to see have some sort of deeper arc.
Yeah. 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 That's it. And I'm a fan of both. So
I am too. I love Percy Jackson. You know I love Percy
yeah.
Jackson. And I love
Yeah.
the TV show. Hades is hot.
I
Hades is
mean,
hot
no, he
across
really
any
is.
medium.
He really is.
If
So is
you're
Percy's
writing
dad.
Hades, yes. If you're writing Hades, I don't care what sort of story you're telling. If you are not writing Hades as the romantic hero, I don't want it. I don't want it. I know he's not in Percy Jackson, but he's hot.
He was the original Joe Goldberg. So for me, I do love him. Like, instead of a glass box, he just took her to his house. So there you go.
To the fields of asphodel. Across the river Styx. I love that you just compared him to Joel Goldberg. Oh my god.
He really is. He's a fucking voyeur. He was like looking at Persephone and was like, I want that. And then he took her.
That's hysterical. That's
It's
hysterical.
true. So you is Hades Persephone fanfiction.
Just multiple times over.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. I think we should coin that. I think we as a unit should write to the owners of Netflix and pitch that.
I think we should.
That we should say, have you ever considered that this is Persephone, especially with Beck? Beck was like sunshine.
Beck is Persephone. No, it's
rainbows.
Yes. No, it literally is. Like, I've never had this thought until this moment, but as soon as I said it, it felt right. It's true.
I agree with you. Just looking at them from the cage versus looking at her through the pond, through the looking glass of the pond.
I mean, Caroline Kepnes has some explaining to do because clearly we found her inspiration.
Yes, it's not just that we are all psycho. And honestly, did you watch this last season of You?
I can't say goodbye just yet,
Okay.
but I do plan on watching it because I just have to know what happens to Joe. Because that's it's similar to Game of Thrones where they've now gone past the books.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I know what happens in the books, but because they split off on a weird tangent, I just have to see how Joe is treated in the show. And I don't know if I'm ready for that.
It always bothers me that Jon Snow is still dead in the books, but whatever. Think about it. Jon Snow's still dead in the books. So will he come back to life in the books? We don't know.
We don't know. We'll never know.
Joe will never know. We will never know. It will die with George R.R. Martin. He will die with that manuscript in his heart, in his mind, in his consciousness, and he'll deliver it through somebody else, and they'll write it as fan fiction.
The creative consciousness. We love this.
The end of You made me feel like, without spoiling anything, a fucking psycho for my Luigi Mangione obsession.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It pointed something out. It reflected the mirror back to me in a way that I was not ready for. And so I would say, go in prepared, because I went in and I was like, is this book about me? Is this about me? And the last season is for the dark romance girlies. Like, it's written that way. It is very on the nose. I'll also talk about fan fiction. He writes his own
You are kidding me.
He writes his own fan fiction. It's a really great season of television. It reflects back to you like Maddie in the audience watching the play and going, is this fucking play about us? Yes.
I can't wait.
Yes, it is.
I can't wait.
It's great. So enjoy. I hope you enjoy it.
I will. I'll report back. And then maybe our book club can read You and then watch season 1 or something. I don't know.
I've yet to read the books, but I would, because I've watched the TV show. I hate the idea of being stalked.
The first 2 books are good, though.
I was going to say I was very adverse to watching the show. And when I had gotten my second COVID shot, I was sick.
Yeah.
I was really, really sick and holed up in bed. And my girlfriend Kaylin came over with, I want to say it was Cheesecake Factory. And we laid in bed while I was dying and we watched the first season. And it's a memory that I cherish because then I was hooked. And I just love Penn Badgley, who hates, like,
he hates
vehemently hates Joe.
He hates it. He hates him.
Joe's number one hater. And I love it
Badgley.
because when you see the way that he gets into things talking about it, like, that's the part of pop culture that I really enjoy. And talk about somebody who is genuinely a feminist, genuinely cares about the safety and the security and respects women on set. Yeah. Like, never heard otherwise, at least. And you can see just in the way that he discusses things, the way he talks about things, the way that he talks about Joe, the way that he talks about what it is to be an abuser and a predator. I really think that you can see it in him. And so it makes me want to watch the work more because now you have this subtext of somebody who definitively doesn't feel that way, but recognizes it in culture. And therefore, I always say, like, especially in this last season, I was like, this must have been incredibly taxing for him emotionally.
Yeah.
So I find that kind of stuff fascinating.
The same can be said about Robert Pattinson and Edward Cullen, because he also thought Edward Cullen was a stalker and a little freak. And when I was 14, I wasn't hearing that man. But now that I'm an adult, I'm like, oh, this is why I had a thing for Joe Goldberg, because Edward would break into Bella's house and watch her while she slept. Like, after she gets married, he kidnaps her and, like, traps her on a remote island and impregnates her. Like, this Twilight is a dark romance. I don't know if you know this, but it is.
This is her introduction to dark romance. And when I think about the timeline of it too, I'm like, wow, this is intense. I was always a bigger fan of Jacob. Though I will say, I had posters of them all, and I put Edward directly over my bed like this, so he would be watching me while I slept because I felt that it was canon with the books. But who did I have next to me? Right here, next to my head? Jacob, Jacob, my protector, while my stalker was watching me.
Neither are good options if you really think about it. Jacob literally forces Bella to kiss him. I mean, neither are good options.
I know. It's coercion at its best in both directions, and
it's why in this day and age I'm team Charlie Swan, and I'm waiting for someone, Daddy forever. I'm waiting for someone to write a 50 Shades of Grey-esque Twilight fan fiction, but it's about Bella's best friend who, like, comes over and falls for her dad. Like, I'll read that. I'll read that. Like, all cops are bad except for Charlie Swan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if it's Bella's best friend, would that not be this insane age gap that would kind of make him a bad guy?
Age gap discourse. I mean, that is the hot topic of all of dark romance. And that is what makes it a dark romance, because he's an older cop. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Otherwise, it's boring. If it's a normal man falling for Charlie Swan, a dad who just wants to do right by his daughter, that's a Debbie Maycomer book. That is a Hallmark movie. If I want angst and I want to feel like I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing, I need the age gap between Bella's best friend and her cop dad.
Bella doesn't have any friends.
It's true. And that's why Bella has no friends.
She's got Jessica. She's got Anna Kendrick and that other girl, and
neither of them are real friends. Yeah.
No, she's got Alice. All of her other friends are Cullens, and they're all paired up. So,
and that's why that book doesn't exist. So that's fine.
That's why that book doesn't exist. I will take Charlie now in my 30s. I don't know if he's kink friendly enough for me. I feel like Charlie's strictly a missionary guy, but
No, you're not seeing him clearly because the man owns
Okay.
handcuffs. Yeah, no, I feel like Charlie gets down and dirty, and we just never saw that side of him because Twilight is from Bella's point of view. So
Okay. I accept this. You should write the fan fiction and send it to me.
that ship has sailed.
You should write the fan fiction and send it to me. I'm sure it exists out there. Listen, if you're
It
listening to this
probably
right now,
does.
if you're listening to this right now and you have this in tucked away in your back burner, you can just send it to me. I'll do a little
Just
review, a
send
little
it.
peer review.
You know what? This fic probably does exist, but it's not going to be of archive of our own. That is a fan fiction website for people with culture. It's going to be on fanfiction.net. It's going to be on fanfiction.net because that website, I mean, when the censorship starts and we like fall into like a man-run society, that website's going to be the first to go. Because I read some truly ungodly things on fanfiction.net, and I bet that's where this Charlie X 18-year-old girl fanfic exists. And I'm going to go look for it and send it to you after this.
And I'm going to read it. And I'm going to read it happily. And I'm going to have my own thoughts, feelings, and opinions. For me, a person who reads, who found that there was no problem between Edward and Bella, and who, like Kingfisher. Have you read Quicksilver?
No.
Okay.
Oh, I've started
Quicksilver?
it. I've started it.
It's a slow start. So you have to get to like
Yeah.
25% before it gets sorry. Because I
Yeah.
hate that. Usually, like after 10%, if I don't like it, I DNF it, but I really push through because it was popular. And
Yes.
it does get good. Anyway, Kingfisher is like 1,754 years old. And that's like a made up number, but it's like in the thousands. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry. And she's 20. And I'm like,
What?
what do you have in common? I know that you look the same age. It's because they look the same age because Faye, age slower and they like mature and they're like
Oh
25. So they look
no.
like they're 25, but they're not. He's 1,275 years old.
Oh
So if
no.
he's that old, do you know how many things that he's seen? Do you know how many things
Yeah.
that he's seen? And now he's choosing to see you and he's saying that he's going to introduce you to all seven gods. He's fucking met them all. He's existed as long as
Yeah.
these gods have existed. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. I gobble it up.
I'm gonna read it now. I didn't realize that was a plot. Again, it takes too long to get there, but I'm going to read it now. Don't you worry.
Kingfisher is filthy. You
I
should.
can't wait. I'm queuing that up tonight.
Filthy.
I can't
Okay.
wait. It's great. I was gonna read the Song of Achilles, speaking of Greek mythology fan fiction, but I'm gonna read that instead.
Song of Achilles is also great. So I think you should do
Yeah,
either or. But
yeah,
I give you permission to do either or. Both are great. You can text me about both because I've read both. So
amazing.
well, thanks, my love. This was wonderful.
What a fruitful conversation. I'm sure we've educated the masses on so many things.
Yes. Yes. So many things, so many different media things that I have to put spoilers for in here, which will be great as I
Right,
sift through. And I
right.
can't wait for people to hear this conversation though, because this is one of the things that when I think about stuff that shapes women's culture or like queer
Mm-hmm.
culture, fan fiction is like a center post, a pillar
Yeah.
of that. So I'm really excited for people to hear it, especially for people that maybe have never engaged with fan fiction before and would like to go off on their own little tangents. Just letting you know, if you've thought it, it's out there. If you have thought it, it is out there.
I have a perfect example. I will never forget. I was in grad school and like my comfort movie is Xenon Girl of the 21st Century.
Love it.
And I was like with a friend watching this movie, and we were both fan fiction readers. And we just both looked at each other and were like, I wonder if there's Xenon fan fiction. There is. There is.
Zoom, zoom,
So
zoom. Make your heart go
if
boom,
you
boom, boom.
if you've thought it, it exists. It exists somewhere. No one has ever had an original thought, and that is what fan fiction has taught me.
It's amazing. Not an original thought, but you know what? A collective web of storytelling.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, my dear. Well, for those listening, Amani will be back in June. We're doing a Black Baddie draft for Juneteenth. And we'll
Woo!
find some space for you to come on and do all of the fanfics
Yeah.
to book
Yeah.
comps. And that will be our own personal book club of two, because I feel like
Yes.
every time we float fan fiction things in our book club, everyone's like,
Shot down.
okay, and what about this one? We're
Shot
like,
down.
lame. We just like the same books. Patricia's in there. Like, Patricia is in the romantasy
Yeah.
space with us.
But to be fair, this book club started because of an idea that I had where I compared The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue to Age of Adeline. I was like, Addie LaRue is Age of Adeline fan fiction or vice versa. And that's how this whole book club started. So I feel like we need to revisit the fan fiction roots.
I agree with you. I
Yeah.
hated, I hated the Blake Lively movie. What is that
It's my
one? Age of
favorite.
Adeline. I
It's
hated.
it's my favorite.
Loved Addie LaRue. I
I'm
love The
listening
Invisible
to it
Life
on
of Addie LaRue.
audiobook. I
Are
either read it or listen to it once a year. It's like my comfort read. And Age of Adeline is my mental breakdown movie. Whenever I'm having a mental breakdown, I throw that movie on and it saves me from committing atrocities. So don't hate that movie.
I love that it keeps you from committing atrocities. I love that you're listening to it if we are talking about a morally gray man that I love. Luke,
It's
loose
him.
forever. Loose
It's
forever.
him.
Loose
Like,
is in Lucifer, right? Like Luke,
right.
loose, whatever we're calling him. I don't know, because in my head I was doing both. What did they say in the
Right.
audiobook?
They call him loose. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really disturbingly
Yeah.
love them together.
Me too. I was like, what do you mean she's supposed to end up with the bookstore guy? No, no, no. I this again, spoiler for please everyone read this book. But no, no, no. I'm team handsome stranger that grants her wishes after dark. Like, what are you talking about?
Oh my God. And the conversation where they're standing on the bridge and they're talking about war. And that is like one of those things that like it sticks to your ribs. Like you have this. I remember reading that and I remember like having to put the book down and being like, am I well? I'm sweating. I love him so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I always thought that maybe we would get a sequel. It's sort of written like perhaps there could be, but I
Yeah.
feel
The
like we're
sequel
not
is
at this
Age of
point.
Adeline, the movie. No, I'm kidding.
It's, Age of Adeline is so.
It's not
I
a
don't
woman who
know.
doesn't age. Come on. It's
It's
her.
listen. I, there is a whole thing that we could talk about women not aging. We could have a whole
Yeah.
conversation about
That's
feminism and what that looks like.
that's a whole another podcast. You're right. Yeah.
But we can do it. We can do that too. Come on anytime you want. Listen,
The sky's the
women
limit.
literature I think is should be explored, and like I had to even go through this today where originally I wasn't going to do The Summer I Turned Pretty. Did you read those books?
Mm. I didn't read the books, but I did
Okay.
watch the show.
Okay. I watched the show and then went back and read the books, and now the show is coming back out. And originally I was like, who cares about this? And then I was like, I do. Like, I care
Yeah.
about stories about girls and YA. Like, I think this is important.
Yeah.
So I just added it into my docket of like, we're going to
Okay,
cover
good.
it on the show. But I
Yeah.
think these are stories that are important. And I like just, we could talk about Age of Adeline from that context. I'd be really interested in it. My comfort read is not that. My comfort read is 100% Night Circus, has been for over a decade at this point. And as it is approaching my birthday, that is my birthday read almost every year.
Okay, Age of Adeline is my birthday read because it starts a week before my actual birthday. It starts like
I love
March
that.
10th, 2014. So I'm like, where was I? March 10th, 2014. I was at a bookstore. It's my story.
I love it. That's perfect. Perfect
Yeah.
for you. I love it. Don't commit atrocities. If there's one thing that we could leave the audience with, it's don't commit an atrocity. Just go find a
Don't commit
comfort book or comfort
atrocities.
watch and just don't commit an atrocity.
Exactly.
All right, my
I love
dear.
it.
Well, I adore you.
Yes. Thank you
There's
so much for having me on.
nothing, quite literally nothing I would rather do than spend time with you online or in person.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we will be chit-chatting as one of our favorite series, or at least one of my favorite series, if we're talking about a sports romance that we love. I'll plug it here because we will not be talking about it on the podcast. I just didn't have room for it, but we'll certainly be talking about it in our group chat. Is the Windy City series by Liz Tom Ford. And the last book in the series is coming out, and it is called Rewind It Back, and it is going to be about Rio. And there's nothing more realistic to me than Rio's story, because who is not in love with Ryan Taylor-Shea? I know you're not the same way that I am. I will let you have your little baby Isaiah. Take him, run with him. Have him, keep him. I'm taking Ryan Taylor-Shea.
That's perfect. We don't have to fight. It's perfect.
We don't have to fight at all. I love it. I would say, and as far as like I'm more of like a Miller. Like if Miller and Indy had an illegitimate love child, I think it would be me.
Okay.
So Kai is second on my list, but notice how none of us want Xander.
No, and that's crazy because I'm definitely a hybrid between Stevie and Kennedy. So in theory, I should want Xander. I don't want Xander.
Xander's a little high maintenance for me.
He's too much with all the jewelry.
Xander's a little high maintenance for me. Xander is a little much for me, but Rio, I will tell you, been dying for his book from day one. Can't wait to get it.
Because Rio's a certified lover boy, just like Isaiah.
Yes.
And I can't wait.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So we'll be chatting. I'll be talking to you throughout the week as the book comes out. So May was a romance read for me. I usually do like a ton of other stuff, and then romance is my buffer when I'm like, I just need to breeze through something.
It's my palate cleanser. Yeah.
Yes. I've read nothing but romance in May. That's not true. I've read some other stuff because I'm rereading the Kindred Saga, which is like a romantasy, but very heavy on the politics side of things. And I did read Blood Over Brighthaven, which is technically, I think, either sci-fi or fantasy, but heavy, real heavy.
Okay.
And then all Emily Henry. And now I'm reading Passion Project, and then I will be reading
Rewind It Back.
It's all love all the time in May, okay? And it's making up for the fact that I'm very, very single, so.
Same here. I told myself I'm only going to allow myself to read a romance novel if I go on a date. So now I'm forcing myself to go out on dates with random men just so I can enjoy the books that I want to read. But here we are.
I love that. Well, listen, hey, me, you, single friends, we can go out in Manhattan anytime you'd like.
Exactly. And we can bring our pets, maybe.
I will not be bringing any of my cats anywhere because I don't think you understand. I have an irrational fear. They could be on top of me and I'm like, where are you? What are you doing?
Oh.
Why haven't you called? No, not cause.
Yes.
Like, I don't do well. I had to put them in the car to drive from Massachusetts to New York, to my mom's house.
Yeah.
The most stressful. My mom stayed on the phone with me for all 3 hours of the trip. I was like, I'm sweating through my palms because I was like, I can't deal. I can't even look at them. I'm going to start crying. I can't take them to the vet. I have a hard time. So I can't bring them out in public because I would be panicking the entire time. But you can bring Appa, and I, as his certified godmother, giving myself the title, will spoil him with absolute kisses and love.
He would love that. In fact, I can hear him crying for me right now. So he loves love.
Well, go tend to him, and thank you for being here. And I'll see you, and everyone else who's listening, we'll see you in a few weeks in June for our Juneteenth episode.
We cannot wait.
I really cannot. I cannot wait. All right, my dear. I love you. I will see you soon. Go enjoy your puppy.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.